I used to dread the day I couldn't surf anymore. My muscles would ache or I wouldn't find the motivation to beat the sunrise. After I turned 50, I was starting to break down. I tried a few things, and then I started Ayurveda therapies at SCU Health. I took back control, and today I feel stronger and more motivated than ever. Nothing's going to keep me out of the water anytime soon.
Take control of your pain at scuhealth.org.
Hey, Gary, how are things?
Things are great, but I crushed my mortgage payment with owning without even leaving my couch. I got a no closing cost refi at a great low rate, and owning did it all in less than 3 weeks. It was easy, no muss, no fuss.
Be like Gary. Call Owning at 855-5-OWNING and crush your mortgage payment with today's 15-year fixed refi at 1.99% rate and APR with no closing costs. None. Zero. Even if you've refinanced recently, call 855-5-OWNING and let us crush your monthly payment even more. That's 855-5-OWNING or log on to owning.com.
NMLS 2611, licensed by the Department of Financial Protection and Innovation under the California Residential Mortgage Lending Act, subject to credit approval. Call 833-852-6464 for terms and conditions.
You can crush it too with a 15-year fixed 1.99% rate and APR with absolutely no closing cost.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is a morning update. What's up, everybody, and welcome to the program. Hope that you're all having a fantastic start to your weekend. I know that, for me personally, I am looking forward to the start of March Madness today. I mean, I'm not the hugest college basketball fan in the world, but this time of year, when March Madness rolls around, it becomes a whole lot of fun. So I'm pumped about that this weekend, all of these different games going on, and considering there was no March Madness last year because of COVID, it makes it a little bit more special, I guess, right? I mean, if you're into sports anyway. For me, there'll be all sorts of bets to be had, hopefully some fun upsets to cheer in, and it'll make the weekend go by that much smoother. So I hope that all of you have some fantastic plans this weekend as well. And if you're going to be watching the tournament, the men's basketball tournament, who do you guys think is going to win it all? Shoot me some email and let me know. All right, so on to the topic at hand. Today we have an article from The Sun, and we have one of the lawyers for some of the survivors unleashed. Spencer Kuvin, either way, I'm not exactly sure. I think it's Kuvin. Either way. He's pretty much just firing off and saying, hey, look, I wonder if Mark Epstein is putting any of this money in his pocket. Is this money all going to the fund? Where is all of this money? And is Mark Epstein, Jeffrey Epstein's brother, enriching himself in any way? So these are the questions that are being asked by one of the lawyers. So you know how I feel about that kind of stuff, right? This is a hard subject, so hard questions must be asked. And up to this point, we really haven't seen much of that, right? We haven't seen the real amount of hard questions that should be asked actually be asked. So when you see something like this from one of the lawyers, I always take note. I mean, I don't know what sort of evidence he has to back up his position. Maybe he has some. Who knows? We haven't seen anything in the public sphere that says that's happening. Could it be happening? Yep, 100%. It possibly could be happening. Who the hell knows? Like I always say, we only know what we know here, folks. But according to this lawyer, he's asking the question and he wants to know, is Jeffrey Epstein's brother Mark pocketing any of this money? Is he getting rich off of this somehow? So let's jump into the article from The Sun and let's see what author Emma Parry has come up with. Headline: Where's the money? Lawyer questions whether Jeffrey Epstein's brother may be trying to pocket cash meant for survivors. It's a pretty loaded statement and a pretty rough question. But, where'd the money go? How could an estate with all of that dough end up having a liquidity problem? It just defies logic, folks. It really just defies logic. Spencer Kuvin, who represents 9 survivors of the disgraced financier, pedophile, told The Sun that following the multi-million-dollar sale of Epstein's mansions in Palm Beach, Florida, and in Manhattan, New York, he would like to see the entire amount of the proceeds go immediately to the Epstein Survivors Compensation Program. Yeah, we're aligned there, my friend. I think that's the best course of action here. And I even think that the government loves to, throw money around, toss money into these programs all around the world, pet programs of their friends, this, that, the other thing. Why don't they waive the taxes on this as long as all of that money goes directly to the Survivors Compensation Fund? And then if there's anything left over after that, then the government can maybe take a little piece for themselves. But it's, I think it would be a good idea for the government to wait on their portion. Is that reality? No. Is that how it'll ever work? Probably not. But, sometimes you could have some pipe dreams, right? He speculated whether the accused sex trafficker's brother, Mark Epstein, may try to keep some of the money for himself. Though he has not provided evidence of any wrongdoing, the estate denied the claim. Yeah, well, again, like I said earlier, I haven't seen any evidence of that, but that doesn't mean there isn't any evidence. Like we always talk about, we're only privy to so much, right? We only have so much that is available to us to go through and to look at and to use as a referral for other things in the case. So when it comes to things like this, the guy's a lawyer for 14 of the survivors. So, look, when he has something to say, you should probably pay attention to what he has to say. Now, could he just be trying to stir the pot? Maybe, right? I don't know their strategy. Again, I've never spoken to any of these lawyers. I don't know them from Sam. But that might be one of the strategies that's being used here. Or he could really think that. I don't know. He's the one saying it, but, big claims require big evidence. So I wonder if perhaps he does have some evidence of this happening. Now, we know that Denise George has alleged that Richard Kahn and Darren Indike are part of the criminal conspiracy with her SECO suit. So who the hell knows what's going on behind the scenes with other participants or alleged participants within Jeffrey Epstein's circle. The Survivors Compensation Fund announced on Friday it would start making payments to survivors once more after it was forced to stop due to insufficient funds. It's just unbelievable. Again, how could a state with that kind of wealth have a problem with liquidity? These houses took a huge shave. All of these properties. They should have been sold off months ago. So if you were going to settle on 51, then, you should have made this an express sale and really got things going. Same in Florida. What was the holdup? We heard about Glazer a few months ago, and there was a holdup. It's kind of ridiculous, no? I know that it's a process to sell property, no doubt about it, but you got to think with all of the money and all of the experts and all of the money that was being spent by the estate that they could have streamlined the process a bit quicker, no? It said $10 million had been provided to the fund from the sales of the properties, which were sold for $51 million and $18.5 million, and additional funds will be made available in the future. What? $10 million out of, what, $69 million, $69.5 million, $10 million has been put into the fund? What in the hell does that even mean? And why? Why isn't the large sum of that put into the fund? It doesn't make sense to me. What happens, like usual, is the government has to have their grubby hand involved in everything, right? I mean, if you and your neighbor want to trade a chicken for a cow, you better believe the government's showing up, and they're going to want a chicken leg, right? They want one of those legs off that chicken because they're entitled to it, and they want a few of those T-bone steaks as well. Oh, on top of that, you better have my money because I'm taxing you on top of that. It's absurd. It is really just absurd. And you would think in a situation like this that somebody would step in, somebody at the Department of Justice would contact one of their colleagues at the IRS or whoever the hell's in charge of this, in this never-ending leviathan of bureaucracy. Get in touch with whoever your colleague is and try and, work something out so that all of these girls get paid out first, and then the government can go and take the change. But no, they gotta have their doskies first, right? And according to Spencer Kuvin here, well, he wants to know about Mark. Is Mark dipping his fingers into the pot as well? One of the concerns I have on behalf of my clients, I represent 9 survivors with respect to the current Epstein Compensation Fund, is that these funds go immediately to the claims administrator to be distributed to the survivors, Kuvin told The Sun. I think that's the sane and logical thing to say or think, right? Isn't that what the money's for? What is it going to go sit into a trust fund? What are they going to go move it down to Southern Trust Ltd? I mean, I don't even understand what any of that means. How many bills could they possibly have for gardeners? How many bills could they possibly have for aircraft maintenance? Not $69.5 million worth or $59.5 million worth. Considering only $10 million, according to this article, has found its way to that fund, that's ridiculous, folks. Honestly, that is absolutely, positively ridiculous. Up until now, things have been put on hold because the funds advised the survivors that there were insufficient funds to satisfy claims. They assured the survivors more funds would be made available soon, so on behalf of the survivors, we would certainly hope that the entire amount of the sale of the house be immediately handed over to the fund administrator because that's where the money belongs. It's for the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein and no one else. Me and this guy, we're definitely aligned here, Mr. Kuvin. I mean, I agree 100% and wholeheartedly that anyone who has their hand out and who is trying to dig into this fund from these survivors should be ashamed of themselves. And that goes for the government of the United States as well. I mean, how ridiculous. As if the United States government doesn't waste that kind of money on a couple of absurd bombing runs over Syria that nobody even asked for, over a sovereign nation that Congress has never even declared war on. And you mean to tell me you can't waive the fee on the taxes for these survivors? Yeah, okay. Yeah, great. Government cares. The government's so woke. They so care about you. Meanwhile, remember, all of those people that you're cheering on, like they're a sports team, are involved with the hush fund in Congress and the Senate. Even the ones that haven't used it, they're enabling it. Have they demanded it? Has anyone stood up there with a 14-hour filibuster about it? No, of course not. Because it's all BS with these people. Unfortunately, like most of the Epstein saga, the survivors have been kept in the dark in regards to the specifics of Epstein's funds, and all, as they have been told, is that their claim will be a fair amount regardless of what funds exist. Yeah, I don't think that's cool either. How about an open line of communication with these girls? If these girls want to call Joanna Feldman or the people running the compensation fund 10 times a day, then so be it. How much money are these the fund managers making? And I don't mean Indike and Khan. I'm talking about Feldman and her company, her group. How much money are they making here? You mean to tell me they shouldn't be around to answer some calls and provide some clarity if these girls want to ask some questions? I mean, that's pretty vague. Their claim will be a fair amount regardless what funds exist? How can you even make that claim if you don't know what the funds are going to be? So that's a little weird, right? The Epstein Survivors Fund announced on Friday that it was resuming payments after a month-long delay. I am pleased to report that the program can now resume full operations after this unfortunate and unexpected month-long delay, said Fund Administrator Jordana Feldman. So that is definitely a good thing, right? A plus. But like everything else in this Jeffrey Epstein case, there's layers to it. And that is only 10 million of 69.5 million racks went to them? How's that even possible? Not even half gets dropped in there, a paltry half, when it should be everything. You mean to tell me that you're going to give them 1/7 of the pie? Where's the rest of that money going? And the government's only taking so much, right? You would think. Then again, who knows what the G-men are up to? Dudes are behind the scenes counting their beans and figuring out how they can enrich the government a little bit more. We have continued to process claims and hold meetings with claimants in anticipation of the resolution of the estate's liquidity issue, and will begin issuing compensation offers immediately. All right, well, it says that they continue to hold meetings with the claimants. That's good. I think that an open line of communication isn't too much to ask for, right? If it was me, I would want an open line of communication. I'd want to be able to reach out to somebody and say, hey, what the hell is going on here? And be it through my lawyer or personally or whatever it is, I think that line of communication is important. But Kuvin still questions what has happened to Epstein's fortune, estimated to be around $577 million. And there we get to it, right, folks? What exactly has happened to all of this money? We know that there's only been a small amount, comparatively speaking, put into the fund. So where has all of this money gone? And again, how many gardeners can you possibly employ? There needs to be a full audit of the estate, I think. I think that, I've been thinking about this for a few days, and I think a full audit is definitely appropriate here. And I wonder if the government can order that. I mean, you would think that they could, right? But I wonder if the prosecution, Denise George or anyone else, is thinking about that. Pretty interesting. We know that there was over $500 million seized by the U.S. Attorney's Office, but the question is, where's that money gone? No one knows at this point, Kuvin said. So there you go, right from the horse's mouth. The lawyer for 9 of the survivors has no idea where this money went either. And neither do we. Neither does anybody, really. I mean, the estate or the people managing the money probably have an idea where it went. But from the outside looking in, we can only speculate. That's why I say all the time, hard questions have to be asked, even if they're, these kinds of questions. Now, again, I don't know what sort of evidence Spencer Kuvin has here, but hopefully he has something, or maybe he's just throwing the question out there. Kuvin speculated whether Mark Epstein, who has been named as Epstein's heir in court papers, is trying to keep as much of the money as he possibly can, as opposed to compensating the survivors fairly. That's pretty loaded. I mean, that's a pretty loaded statement, right? And it takes some huevos to make a statement like that. When contacted by The Sun, Mark Epstein hit out at Kuvin, calling him a moron, but declined to comment further. Oh, all right. Well, that's pretty straight to the point by Epstein the Younger. Epstein the Younger he's like, you know what? All right, you're a moron, bro. How about that? Instead of answering any questions or going into detail, he's just like, look, you're a moron. I have nothing else to say. Okay, that's all fine and well. And I get it, right? Probably not the best thing to do, get into a war of words with the lawyer of these girls and bring attention to yourself. But Unfortunately, these questions have to be asked, and if the legacy media isn't doing their job and asking them, somebody has to do it. Lawyers for Epstein's estate denied that Mark Epstein had anything to do with the administration or operations of the estate, and said that all the money from the recent sales will go to the fund. Well, that's all fine and well, and that's great. If that's what they say, okay. I don't have any evidence that says that that's not the case. But to act like Indike and Khan had no idea who Mark Epstein is, or that Mark Epstein in turn had no idea who Indike or Khan is, that's a bit ridiculous. That's the selling a bridge in the desert type of deal. It would be nonsensical for the co-executors to hamstring an independent program that they themselves voluntarily developed, designed, and implemented for the very purpose of compensating survivors of Mr. Epstein's sexual abuse, Dan Weiner, counsel for the co-executors, told The Sun. Well, right there you have it, folks. The estate admits that Jeffrey Epstein abused these girls, point blank, period. So now Ghislaine Maxwell's going to say she had nothing to do with it, huh? Okay, what were you doing for all those years hanging out around there, Ghislaine? These are the questions that have to be asked. And all the whinging and crying about conditions in court, conditions in jail and loopholes and all the other nonsense is never going to cut it. Because the fact of the matter is, the estate, by setting up this compensation fund, and then just right here with this comment again, is admitting that Jeffrey Epstein did in fact abuse these girls. In fact, the EVCP announced on Friday afternoon that it's resuming insurance of survivor compensation determinations in light of the estate's commitment to provide further funding realized through the co-executor's sale of the NYC and Palm Beach properties. The co-executors regularly and publicly account to the Superior Court of the U.S. Virgin Islands on all assets and liabilities of the estate, most recently filing its 5th quarterly accounting last month. Well, again, that's like I talk about with tax returns. It's all fine and well if you're, stating everything that you have made or everything that has come in. Just because you're reporting doesn't mean you're reporting everything that should be in the report, right? Everything that is required. So that's fine and well, and good on you guys. Great. Here's a golf clap for the estate for doing their job. But that doesn't mean that we should just trust blindly the reports filed by the estate. Again, I think a full audit must occur. Mr. Kuvin's suggestion that estate funds have gone missing suggests either that he has not read the 5th quarterly accounting or chooses to ignore its detailed explanation of the estate's expenditure of funds, including over $200 million in taxes paid to date to state, federal, and French governmental authorities, and now nearly $100 million provided to the EVCP for payment of survivor compensation. $100 million, huh? Last we heard, only $50 million had been paid out, and now they're saying just $10 million was provided. So which is it? You see what goes on here, the contradictions and the BS? That's why we got to stay on top of this shit, and that's why we can't trust the nonsense coming out of their mouths over at the estate. There has been no delay whatsoever in the EVCP paying those women who accept its compensation determinations. The one month pause in its issuance of new compensation determinations, a pause necessitated by the estate's lack of liquidity in the midst of a worldwide pandemic, now resolved through the co-executor's sales of the NYC and Palm Beach properties, did not prejudice or slow payments of any previously accepted EVCP compensation determination, nor will it delay payments of any new determination. Oh, okay. So basically what you're saying is nothing? Because the money stopped, all right? Those are the facts. Spinning it doesn't change anything. The compensation stopped. Right? You stop taking new compensation requests. Point blank, period. Spin it up, dress it up any way you want. Oh, the pandemic. How many times are we going to have to hear that? That's getting tired and old. These properties should have been spun off, sold a very long time ago. In response, Kuvin said, Obviously, the estate is protecting its own beneficiaries. He said that the whole saga had been very frustrating for the survivors he represents. These girls are now women who have been repeatedly denied justice, he said. Yep, 100%. And that's why it's so frustrating, right? And remember, folks, not just the survivors have been denied justice, society as a whole, me, you, and everybody else. If everybody isn't demanding a full trial here, a full investigation, then I don't know what's wrong with you. Because if anything has ever necessitated a full-on, full-blown investigation, it is this. These are young women who were denied justice initially when he was let go. They were denied justice when he got a sweetheart deal. They were denied justice again when he pressured them into settlements because of his heavily handed surveillance and pressure tactics during litigation. They were then denied justice when he was arrested because they could not see him face trial and he was allowed to commit suicide or murdered in jail. It's another repeat of the same unfortunate tragedy in this Epstein saga. Nail on the head. 100%. How many times have we talked about it? The repeated abuse of these survivors, first by Epstein and then by a broken-ass system. Nobody wants to take responsible for that broken system. You got these lawyers that come out, for that now that Maxwell's in jail and talk about, oh, it's so bad and so horrible. Where were you for all of these decades working towards making the system right, making it fair? Nowhere to be seen. A number of the survivors I represent were abused in the house in Palm Beach, and they were incredibly happy to hear that along with the sale of the Palm Beach home, the plans were it would be destroyed. That's music to the survivors' ears. I for sure. It definitely should be. And like I said, I think that Glazer should offer the survivors to go down there, grab a sledge, and do a little bit of remodeling themselves. I don't know if it's a realistic option for the property in New York, given its location, but I can't imagine anyone wanting to live in a home where numerous young girls have been raped. It's like living in a home where a murder has occurred. Epstein killed himself while awaiting trial, allegedly, for his sex crimes back in August 2019. His alleged accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, remains in prison and is due to face court in July. So, the war of words is heating up, folks. You got Spencer Kuvin, lawyer for 9 of the survivors, coming out with both guns hot, both guns blazing, and asking if Mark Epstein is dipping his fingers into the pie and wetting his beak via this money. In return, you have Epstein the Younger firing back that Spencer Kuvin is a moron. Meanwhile, the rest of us are just swimming through the murky water looking for some clarity. If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI at protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. All of the links that go with this episode can be found in the description box. All right, everybody, depending on the news, I might not be back with a daily drop tonight. It might just be a couple of flashback episodes. We'll see what the lay of the land is. If there's some new news that needs to be addressed right away, then I'll be back on and I'll pump out a daily drop. But if not, I'll be sitting around watching some basketball and getting fat. All right, everybody, I hope that all of you enjoy your Friday, and either I'll be back later on tonight, depending on the news, or for sure, I will be back in the morning. Take care, everyone.
I gave up that dairy. My cereal's dry.
Ray, ain't you heard?
No milk for my cookies.
Ray,
About ready to cry. I got the flu.
try Planet Oat milk. Creamy and delicious.
Whoa. I found it. I've got to be around it.
Planet Oat milk. We soft milk.
And I'm in love.
Hey, Gary, how are things?
Things are great, but I crushed my mortgage payment with owning without even leaving my couch. I got a no closing cost refi at a great low rate, and owning did it all in less than 3 weeks. It was easy, no muss, no fuss.
Be like Gary. Call owning at 855-5-OWNING and crush your mortgage payment with today's 15-year fixed refi at 1.99% rate and APR with no closing costs. None. Zero. Even if you've refinanced recently, call 855-5-OWNING and let us crush your monthly payment even more. That's 855-5-OWNING or log on to owning.com.
NMLS 2611, licensed by the Department of Financial Protection and Innovation under the California Residential Mortgage Lending Act, subject to credit approval. Call 833-852-6464 for terms and conditions.
You can crush it too with a 15-year fixed 1.99% rate and APR with absolutely no closing cost.